tonight, under my report, the first item, it is exciting we get to see the seniors at the end of their career and where they're headed. And then we also get to see where some of our young budding artists are and our kids at the elementary. And Mr. Foreman is an art teacher that joined us this year and has done a phenomenal job at the elementary K-6. And there was a contest with Keep PA Beautiful, and we did have several winners, so I will turn it over to Mr. Foreman and he can present.
Well, thank you, everybody. Like Dr. Nick said, I am new to the district this year. I can say I came in optimistic on the kinds of talents to expect, but I was overwhelmed by what I was finding. The kids were actually exceptional from the start, so it was hard to keep up with them. I teach from a problem-solving stance, so they're challenged, they have to solve, kind of like the, how do I get to this point? Keep PA Beautiful's been around for, I believe, over 30 years. So when we got an opportunity to join their competition, why not? We did over 300 kids, I think, for the Christmas card competition. So we figured we can flood them and see what we pull from it. Amazingly enough, out of 10 awards, we snagged 3 second-place finishers. So from a team standpoint, we took first, but they don't acknowledge teams. So individually, we did fantastic. I'm going to invite Emerson Hassler up here first. Emerson placed second place out of roughly 800 entries. Emerson's poster is the first of the 3 here going across the back. So we can give Emerson her certificate. One of our other contestants and award winners doesn't look like is here this evening, but Reagan Wolf, second grader, she placed second out of roughly 700 entries. They go by grade level at the state level. So Reagan placed second, that's her poster in the middle there. Reagan will receive a certificate. They also receive a gift card to Target, I believe. And last but certainly not least, Epiphany Juarez from Penn Burnville placed second for the 4th grade category. Had a very beautiful poster. Actually got a lot of compliments from the organization when they emailed me about the winners. So congratulations, Epiphany. But this is just a 0.001% showing of the talent at the elementary level. I'm going to do a shameless plug, so if you're free, May 23rd, we have our art show at Bethel Elementary, and on May 24th at Penn Burnville Elementary. We partnered up with the 4th grade concert to try to create an arts fest. So you'll get to see Emerson, Reagan, and Epiphany, their totality of art that they've created throughout the year, including every other student. So thank you.
The next item under my report is I'm going to invite Sean Young and Matt Shirk to do a presentation. There was some concerns that were expressed at the last board meeting about things getting through our web filter, and so we have reached out and talked to Matt and Sean about presenting, just to give you an idea of what our web filter does and kind of some of the inner workings. So they have a short presentation on that. So I'll turn it over to Matt and Sean.
Hello everyone, I'm Sean Young. I am the Systems Administrator at Tulpehocken. I work for Matt, and like Mr. Densick said, we're here to kind of talk about our web filter, also known as Internet Content Filtering. So specifically we use an application called MindWise. There's hundreds to choose from. This is just what we have today. Let's talk about what Internet Content Filtering even is. We all love the Internet, and we also probably all hate the Internet. It's really useful for all the tools and resources that we have at the click of a button, but there's also a lot of inappropriate and malicious content available on your body. So internet content filtering is here to help us try to weed out anything that's inappropriate or deemed as not safe or harmful for our staff and students. So we can start and talk about what is LineWise. LineWise can be broken down into two components: off-campus content filtering and local content filtering. The off-campus content filtering is an agent that's installed on the Windows devices, our laptops, our Mac devices, and our iPads. And what this does is, and we'll get more into the filtering aspect later, but what this ensures is, as soon as a device leaves our campus, so our premises, they go home, a friend's house, airport, wherever they may be, as long as they're using our student devices, they're going to be filtered out of all that inappropriate and malicious content that would normally be available on any device. And so the local content filtering is the same thing, except our local network. So anytime you connect to our local network, like our TDSD Wi-Fi, you're going to be filtered as well. And this includes personal devices, laptops, iPads, even your watches these days. So any of that stuff will go through our filter, and you'll still get all of the sites filtered out if it's inappropriate or not. So a good idea, or good thing to mention, is how does LineWise work? Well, LineWise is in the hands of 20,000 schools and 12 million students, and it's almost like a collaborative effort, because we all kind of work together to identify what is safe and what is not safe for our students. And LineWise kind of puts that into categories here that we can see on the screen called, like, so for the example here, we have cheetah papers. If you don't know what cheetah papers is, because I didn't before this, it is a cheating website for plagiarism, and you can download papers and submit it. So obviously, LineWise is going to sit here and it's going to categorize them as academic dishonesty and offensive. So whatever we want, then LineWise leaves it up for us for whatever we want to do with it. So obviously we block these sites because we want our students to be able to do their own work and be as on it on themselves as possible. And so we also have the ability though, so if for some reason we thought Cheetah Papers was a good site, we have the capability to unblock that, but still block academic dishonesty for all the students. So not that we want to unblock Cheetah Papers, but we do have the ability to unblock just that site, but still block all these categories. And these categories are crucial for how we do maintain our filtering for our students, our staff, and any devices that connect to our network, because that's how we control what they're able to access and not. So we also have the ability, though, to control keywords. So some keywords are not, we don't want students searching certain keywords or phrases that are only going to elicit inappropriate content or malicious activity. And so when any time that these things are triggered by the filter, they just get a block page right away. So for the keywords, even if they try to search it, it's blocked right away, can't see any results, and that's exactly what we want, because we don't want to entertain anything after those certain words or phrases are searched. So if you look at the screen here, this is a baseline of how we filter our students. So these are examples of not all the categories, but like I said, it is a baseline. So across the board, whoever joins our network, whoever has one of our devices, these aspects are blocked instantly. So any site, like we saw before with Cheetah Papers with those categories and academic dishonesty, we can see here that academic dishonesty is one of the categories. And what this is saying is as soon as that site is clicked, and because it's already pre-labeled by LineWise, it's blocked. The students are getting a blocked page right away, and ensuring that they cannot access this inappropriate activity. And so if we look at some of the examples here, we have like gambling, hacking, piracy, the academic dishonesty. We definitely don't want anyone in our network or on their devices to be able to access this content. But so what this is saying is this, like I said, this is a baseline. So we do have the capabilities to filter more based on who you are. So we do have some more illicit groups for our high school students, middle school, and then we have some more specialty ones that we'll talk about in a little bit. But for example, our students, in addition to this, they're also blocked from games, streaming, and social media, and some other categories as well. Another thing I wanted to bring up was our red flags, because it's become very important in our day-to-day. So red flags are just kind of like an object made of these categories and these words and searches that we're seeing. And so when someone searches anything that also is filled into these gray boxes here on the real-time reports, so something like offensive content, violence, adult content, anytime these searches or categories come up, it's going to alert us right away. And so this lets us know that what students are looking for. And this is a great tool to help keep our students safe and the environment a little bit safer as well. But it also triggers many false positives because if, for example, if you look at violence, anytime you would search up the Civil War or anything like relating to the World War and something maybe graphic like a massacre or something, it's going to let us know. It's not necessarily blocking the student when they search these things, but it's alerting us that, hey, these students are looking at this content, and then at least it's up to us to decide from there. And by us, we start with the IT team, including Matt and myself, Jen Engelbert, and Zach Heckel. We kind of review these content, and if it's at any question, we refer it to administration and the principals right away. But like I said, there's a ton of false positives. For instance, I had a student 2 weeks ago, and I think he's going to be a great businessman one day, but he's looking up weed whackers. Like, over and over again, how to fix weed whackers, best type of model of weed whackers. But because the word weed is in there, we are getting alerted as it's a substance abuse. Now, while it's kind of like, you know, this isn't really a big deal, it is important because if we had the adverse effect of a student looking into substance abuse in a different way or a different manner, we would want to know that. And we would want to relay that to the principal's administration for further intervention as well. Sometimes these red flags have some consequences. And one of those consequences is called the student whitelist. Now this is one of those groups that I said that we can define furthermore or refine from the baseline. And this is one of them. This is probably one of our most extreme usable groups, because we have some more that are unusable, but they are applied every now and then. So what the student whitelist is saying, hey, we have these categories listed, but if it's not a part of, if that site you click on is not a part of these categories, we're going to block you right away. So this is saying we're going to block everything but this. And while the other way was we're only going to block these categories that are deemed inappropriate and malicious. And so the whitelist, like I said, can be a result of the red flags. Sometimes students will consistently be unfocused and look up, you know, malicious activity or inappropriate content, and this kind of helps them to stay focused on the educational resources only. This does have some adverse effects though too. It's too good at its job, and sometimes it blocks things that teachers might be using. So it can be a little tricky for us to use sometimes, but this is a really good example of how we can kind of take these groups of students such as elementary, high school, or these more restricted groups of students and kind of categorize things appropriately to help our students stay focused that may struggle to do so. In addition to the student whitelist, we do have some other groups like no internet, which blocks everything from them, so they can basically just use their laptop as like a Word doc or something like that. And then we also have no YouTube, because YouTube can be a big distraction for many of our students, so we can block them from YouTube, although sometimes it affects or impacts some of the schoolwork, but our teachers always have alternatives that we can refer them to instead. So these are really kind of the main components that I wanted to talk about because they are so crucial to what and how we filter our students today. So we do have, you know, those two compliant or appliances that we use to filter the students, the agents and the local appliance. You know, we do have the groups of students that we're blocking, like this, the whitelist, and we have the red flags to help alert us of what students may be trying to do or anything along those lines. And so that's basically all I wanted to really talk about because these were the main ideas of our content solution. Any questions for the board?
A lot more detailed than my visual.
I could get a lot more into it.
It's very, very interesting. I really enjoyed it, honestly.
Yeah, there's so much to do, and when you look at it, it's very overwhelming, but I try to make it easy.
You did a good job.
Yeah, that was a good job. Thank you.
And one thing I will point out to Matt and Sean and the team, along with the principals, there are times where at 11 o'clock at night, there's a student searching something related to suicide, and Matt has immediately reached out. The principals have then called the parents to alert them of the situation, just as a heads up. So they also use this as a much more proactive tool, you know, outside of the school as well, in the event that, you know, somebody's looking to hurt themselves.
So, can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a team of 4 people who get alerted, is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah.
So for all of the students, run me through an alert process. process? So 11 o'clock at night, your phone just starts?
It comes into our email, and Sean and myself especially are very on top of our email, so as soon as we see that, it comes from a specific email address, so we see that and look at what it is right away. And if it's deemed inappropriate, or if it's something suicidal, I alert administration right away to get hold of that student. There are times where, if I'm asleep, I'm not getting it, but as soon as I get up, I'm getting it, or if I'm still up, I'm getting it. So. But for the most part, it's worked out real well, because I'm usually a late night person, the others are usually up and at it in the mornings and can get to it, but, so, it works out with our team.
So in the, I think everybody's well aware, technology-wise, there's always something that's gonna perhaps sneak through.
Right.
What's the something sneaks through.
Yeah.
What's the process to continually analyze stuff that might, and I'm sorry I missed the last meeting, so I don't know what this, I didn't watch it on Tom's YouTube channel, I apologize. I get no sponsor money from my YouTube hit, but what's the process for something like that?
Yeah, of course, there are always anomalies every now and then, and so these red flags are really good generation tools. So at one point, at any time in their search or whatever site they're on, if it finds that word, I know right away. And then what I can do is I can go through their whole activity for the last month if I really wanted to see what they're getting to, and then take the appropriate steps to either talk to administration, be like, do we want to allow this? Do we not want to? Or do I just block it right away? Obviously, we can tell if there's something we need to block right away. And then no matter what, when we start stumbling upon that stuff and we see the activity, like there's always a trail, and there's always at least one like loophole that alerts us. And so as soon as we get that trail, we then alert the administration and say, hey, it's not like just this. This is everything leading up to that. This is what they're consistently trying to do. So you kind of make like a portfolio of it. And for the most part, it's not about sites they're getting to. It's things that they're trying to get to is more of the issue than ever. So the filter works pretty well, but like you said, there are always anomalies. So as soon as we get an alert for that, we can block it right away. It takes less than 30 seconds.
Teachers help us out as well. So if a teacher sees something, hey, this Johnny was on doing something inappropriate, I couldn't tell because he closed it, but we can go look at that history.
So that thing's like a living, breathing database that
Correct.
continually.
And we can submit stuff to them, or we can just put it in our own list that blocks it as well. So we have capabilities doing both. Their support has been real good to us as well. If there is an issue that comes up, we'll let them know, and they usually hop on it pretty quickly for us. Either add it to a category or help us block it or unblock it if we have a problem.
I'd assume administration has a SOP that they follow for when this stuff's alerted, and safe to assume as principals.
Yeah, so if we were to get alerted from Matt or Sean or whomever, depending upon the nature of, what is sent to us, phone call immediately to families, or if it's extremely dire, go above that. But obviously try and reach out to the families, even over the weekend. I know I've been out and Matt's called me and got a hold of the family. Took a few tries, took a couple voicemails, and we got a hold of them. Better safe than sorry. Within the building, call the student up or have one of the counselors call the student up. Make sure, see what's going on. Oftentimes it's been like song lyrics. They're just Googling like the lyrics to a song, they don't know the name. Whether it's for a project, to analyze the lyrics or what have you. So oftentimes it's nothing more than that. But when it is, we handle it by the book with the handbook.
So, do you report more to this company, or do you keep more internal? Do you report?
As far as sites,
Yeah.
most of the time we'll do it ourselves.
Just yourself.
If it's something that should be blocked for everyone, we'll let them know. We
So I would think that, if all the schools kept feeding them the sites, it would be a bigger database to block.
Yeah,
So what's the name of this filter?
line plus,
And what do we use before that?
light speed.
And why did we get rid of it?
So Lightspeed went way up in price, and IU13 started selling line-wise at a much better rate, so I figured I'd demo it, and I ended up liking it. It works real well for us. There's some gotchas, but there's some gotchas with all the filters.
So this catches anything that's on our network.
Correct.
So if somebody has a phone, and they're on Verizon,
If they're on Verizon, we're not catching it, but if they're connected to our Wi-Fi, we can catch it.
Or on a student device.
What's that?
Or on a student
Or on a
device,
student device. All of our district phone stuff has that client that.
whether they're at home or
Correct.
on a server.
Yeah. So part of our E-rate funding, we have to filter all devices. So we have to have some form of content filter, and it has to filter at home even as well. So that's part of why that agent exists.
What happens, like I hook my phone here to the TASD open site, can you identify?
I can't identify, but we can, a lot of times you can see the device name, but that also doesn't identify. Some people name their devices something abnormal that you can't tell. But you can at least see all the traffic that's going through. And it's still blocking all the, that default list that Sean showed earlier in that picture, that's blocked for everybody, so no matter what.
Nice job.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the next two items are informational. Every year, our FFA goes to the state convention out in Penn State. They are going again on June 13th through the 15th. It's an overnight trip, so it does require board approval. But you can see in your packet, there was information on what it is. There's a lot of competitions that then can lead to them competing at the national FFA convention. Last year, we did have a team that went on from competing in first and took first at the state level, and then went on and competed in Indiana at the national level. So that will be on the agenda for the 16th for approval. And then the other item is a Wesley Idris Art Scholarship. Mr. Idris had talked to Mimi about creating a scholarship and worked with Dr. Matlack about going through and kind of identifying what that criteria is. Mr. Idris wanted to honor two of his art teachers, former art teachers that inspired him, and is creating a scholarship every year of $250 that he would like to present to a senior each year. And so as part of the process, that art scholarship will be on the agenda for approval as well. And the last item is just an informational item, since it is coming up to the election day or primaries on May 16th. The board meeting will be changed to the Burnville cafeteria. With everything going on with the high school project, typically the rotation will be at the junior senior high school library, but they're clearing out libraries. There's boxes everywhere, packing up books, and so it'll be at Burnville's cafeteria.
And for those of us that have never set foot in Burnville, how do we find it?
So if you go to the parking lot right off of 183 in the back, if you come in there, we'll have the entrances right there open.
In the basement?
It'll be, it's the best way to describe
The
it.
ground level of the parking lot?
It's in the back part, you
Yeah.
turn right up,
Yeah.
you can find them.
Like where you go into the
Okay.
gym.
yeah, where you go to?
Yes. That ends my report.
All right, are there any citizens or students wishing to address the board pertaining to agenda items only? Seeing none, we'll move on to buildings and grounds and technology. Mr. Hatch.
All right. Approve the purchase of, this will be next one. Approve the purchase of the student laptops from Dell Technologies in the amount of $110,280 in accordance with the yearly technology plan for the incoming 5th and 9th grade students. And then Bethel Elementary School Gymnasium, Mr. Shark.
So the Bethel gym, we're looking to do what we did at the Burnville gym, where sand it down, repaint the T logo and new lines, and then replace the old wooden bleachers that are there with the new bleachers, same as Burnville, and then also a scoreboard. The youth basketball group actually contacted me about the new scoreboard and was willing to split the cost with us, so we're going to work through that as well. about getting a new scoreboard. It's having some issues with it, it's also corded, they're looking for something more like our goals are. I have most of the quotes in that, I will have them all by the next board meeting for you guys to see that. Just waiting for a few people to get back.
Do cost estimates, Matt, that you can go through?
The floor was, right around 20,000 was the floor, bleachers was 40, or something, 38,000, and scoreboard was 4,200, so right in that ballpark.
Is that comparable to what we spent at PB?
Yes.
And this is, you hope to have it done over the summer, I
Correct.
Who did the scoreboard? Did the district and the youth program split the cost at Burnville?
They did not. The scoreboard at Bethel was much older. We were not, or Penn Burnville, we were not necessarily looking to replace the scoreboard at Bethel, because it was, I'm assuming it was replaced in the renovation. This is fairly new. No, it is a lot newer though than what PB's was.
So the basketball would pay for half of that out of their booster club account?
That was what they told me. Boosters or youth club?
Yeah, it would be
Probably
it's
be the youth, because that's who
basketball
we use
program.
that, you know.
Are we really looking to bust them for $2,100? Being a youth program advocate, funds are sometimes difficult to come by to run these programs, and just my one of 9, $4,200 scoreboard to upgrade, give the kids a nice piece of equipment and whatnot to play. I wouldn't, again, just be.
I agree with you on that one. I think the school should foot the whole bill. I don't think they should be looking for the kids or the sports boosters.
And I'm not saying anybody here was looking for them to do that. I'm just giving my suggestion that I know the amount of fundraisers.
Yeah, that's what I mean, I hear what you're saying, but if we weren't thinking of, the scoreboard didn't need replaced, and we weren't thinking of it, and they're saying, hey, we want a new scoreboard, I can see taking them up on that, but I also see definitely your end of it.
Chances of the school district walking into an elementary gym and going, it's not like we as a district run elementary sports programs. So you're constantly looking at your junior high and senior high stuff. But I know that youth programs rely heavily on the school district. And I also am a firm believer that those programs are they're getting kids out, they're getting kids active, they're keeping them involved. And it's also a feeder program for your high school sports eventually. And I know what it takes to put fundraisers together and try to make sure that kids have uniforms and all of the other things that go along with it. And it can be challenging to do. And again, just like over $2,100. We're not talking a $30,000 scoreboard or jumbotron or something, goofy. We're talking a basketball scoreboard.
If that's the direction we would go, we can certainly do that. I don't have a problem or see an issue with that.
Next meeting, do we go?
We can wait for the next meeting.
You look like you wanted to say something.
I'm at both ways. If we weren't gonna do it and they're willing to do it, yeah, it'd be great, but at the same time too, yeah, I don't get to do the coaching part, but I watch what the guys do for my kids that are in sports. It's a lot. It's a lot of free time.
More than a lot of people can comprehend.
Absolutely.
Trust me.
I guess my only question would be, I agree either way on this, but do they have a surplus of money that they want to give us this money? Or is this just something that they just move on putting the scoreboard in. And I agree, I think that thing was there when I was in school. That's a pretty good scoreboard, isn't it?
It was not replaced during the building project.
Yeah, I think that's pretty old, but.
It's not, I don't think it's as old as the Burnville one was,
Yeah.
but it's.
So I remember being told about why they wanted to replace it, there's problems with lights, and it doesn't always work correctly, I get that. And no one here is against replacing it, so the question now is, how do we pay for it?
Most of those programs, just speaking from my experience, when you approach a township or a school, because that's what these programs are using, township fields or a school district property. A lot of times they feel the only way to get some movement and buy-in to improve facilities or locations or equipment that is kind of not owned by the youth program, but it's owned by another entity, is to offer to pay a portion of it, and they feel that'll help get movement. I think that it's not a $30,000 scoreboard or whatever. And ultimately, it's up to the nine. When I saw that, I wanted to throw it out there.
And we can, and this is something that you could think on as well, if you wanted to. I mean, it would be on the agenda to upgrade it. And then at that point as well, we could say, you know what, we're gonna upgrade it at no cost, or, we'd like to partner, but that's not necessarily something that has to be decided tonight. It's something you guys can think about.
Sounds like most of us are good either way.
Yeah, at least we're looking to replace it, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
We gotta talk about the parking yet, man?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I wanted to read it first.
I didn't know, I was gonna say I can. Next is carpeting projects for the elementary libraries through ESSER funding.
So I reached out to a few companies local to the area about getting some quotes for the carpets. They came in a little higher than the threshold, so we went out to official bid for that. I did send that bid papers to all those companies, and most said they will reply to the official bid then for both elementaries. So once we get those, that comes back May 12th, we'll have all those numbers then for you next meeting as well. That's just to do the libraries, and then the plan at some point would be to start doing this building as well. When we start. I did get a quote for this building, so we have those numbers that we can share with you, but at this point, we're just going to focus on the libraries for that ESSER funding.
Moving on to finance, Mr. Strack.
All right, A is the 2023-24 preliminary budget presentation. Tom.
Oh, he's in presentation mode.
Okay, this is the agenda for tonight. Go over the Act 1 index and timeline for this budget. Review the fund balances of the general fund and capital reserve funds. Just look at the revenue expenditures and debt service and how it relates to the bond payment and a village trend comparison. We're looking to have a finance committee meeting either late this week or next week prior to the final budget, preliminary budget document. So if we can get that set up tonight, that would be great. The index for Act 1, and Act 1, it used to be a big deal, everybody wanted it, but it's never applied to us because we've never gone to raise taxes above the index. But the base index is 4.1%, and we don't get an adjustment because our aid ratio is under 0.4. And it hasn't always been under 0.4, just the second year now it's been under 0.4. And I'll show you in a minute where we've gone and where we've come from as far as aid ratio with our market value and our personal income. Our tax increase was not considered during this process. Resolution was approved in January not to raise taxes. We do that every January. So we'll do a preliminary budget approval on the 16th and the final will be on the 20th. And tax bills go out on July 1st. So this is a 10-year look at our aid ratio, and this used to be really important when it had to do with our PlanCom reimbursement. It has a little bit to do with our transportation reimbursement, and it used to have something to do with, a lot to do with our child accounting reimbursement. So that formula kind of has gone by the wayside, but just to give an idea, back in 10 years ago in 13, our aid ratio was 0.4682, and it's gone down to 0.29. So it went down 17 points, 37%. Nobody else has even come close to that as far as the county as far as, so that's, it's just a gauge of our increasing market values in the district. So I thought it was interesting to see. This is our fund balance information that we want to look at. So at the end of 22, these were the numbers we had. We had $250,000 in assigned fund balance. And committed fund balances, we had athletic facility improvements, that's turf replacement and track replacement, which is right at the end of its life. So we'll have that available. Special ed program, we just always have something on hand there in case there's a new process or something that we come up with. And there's been we have a large curriculum cycle coming up in the future, not this year, but so we held that money that was in the previous budget for curriculum for textbooks. So it's $2 million of committed fund balances. The unassigned fund balance is $3,029,000, which is just under the 8% threshold that we're required to keep. So our general fund has $5.3 million in it, and our capital reserve at the end of last fiscal year had $6.5 million in it. And that, and basically we've also paid over $4 million out for the high school project from that. So I have 4.4 is what we have paid between the architect, permitting, and construction management reviewed. So our total fund balances at the end of the year was $11.8 million. This is a projection to the end of June this year. Assigned fund balance will probably just have $35,000 or so. That's just a number. It could be prepaid expenses or anything like that. Athletic facilities will keep that the same, assuming unassigned will keep it relatively the same. So, those numbers will relatively stay the same, $5.1 million and $5.2 in the general fund. Total reserve funds. The capital reserve fund, again, we started this year with 6.5. We've already paid, I think, $449,000 in expenses in this year. So we do have some other expenses that we expect to pay between now and the end of the year. So about $554,000 will be paid out in the 22-23 school year. We've already transferred $2.25 million. And that wasn't budgeted in the capital reserve transfer line item, you see, but it was budgeted in the bond payment line item. We expected to have the construction project moving by this time last year, and we knew what the bond payment was going to be, and that's kind of what that number was. So instead of we just put it into capital reserves immediately. In December we did that. At the end of this year, it's still early to tell, but we will most likely have $1.2 or so million to transfer to capital reserve. And it really depends on the timing of interim payments. I'll go over that in a minute. So the projected capital reserve fund balance at the end of this year, June 30th, will probably be about $9.5 million. So we don't expect a lot of construction expenses to happen between now and June, but after that, you know, we're going to have some significant expenses when the project gets rolling. So just wanted to go over that.
Tom, can you tell us the 8%, what does that mean?
8% is a mandatory threshold that the state had made. I think it was with Act 1. Depending on the size of your district, most districts have to keep it under 8%. You can't have the unassigned fund balance be more than 8% of the next year's budgeted expenditures. So we would use, at the end of June of 22, we would have used the expenditures that we had budgeted for this year, and our fund balance can't be more than 8% of that number.
And if it's more, then it goes to the
Then,
capital reserve?
yeah, you have to transfer it out of there. You can assign it, you can do, well, you have to sign it or commit it to one of those categories that we have. And you can make a category.
So with what we just saw there, that end of year number, is the new bond payment figured into the next year's budget?
Yes. Yes. It's basically a $2 million increase for that one.
How much of that is still, quote unquote, reserved, earmarked to go towards the building project? In our initial plan, like, because we were setting so much aside for every year.
Right. I think, and then
We initially had said about $7 million in cash and then the 2.1 in ESSER refund. So we were going to pull out $9 million in cash, so to speak.
Additional or
That
including
was
the
total.
four?
so that would be another.
So basically, we have another 4.5 to
Yeah.
pull out of it.
No, so we would have about another 2.5, 2.6 cap, according to the initial plan. We would be pulling, we've already spent 4.5 million, we'd be pulling another 2.5 million out.
And we use 2.1 from ESSER's HVAC project gets going.
So we could, I mean, we did transfer the 2.25 because we thought it would be a bond payment.
Yeah.
You know, we can alter our plan to include more money out of the capital
That
reserves.
was, 2.25 was basically one bond payment. We thought the bond payment was going to be about 1.75 or 1.8 last year. So it was a 1.75 for the bond payment and another 500 for the capital project plan that we had. We had $500,000 worth of. In the long-range plan, we wanted to fund that annually to pay for those projects like the gym and those type of things.
I think we ought to, as we move here in that budget planning, I think we ought to get with Mr. Shirk and kind of see what the projections are of what's upcoming. Remember, we kind of had that started and then it kind of fizzled out, but that way we know what we're up against in the 2, 4, 6-year outlook of roofs,
Yeah, we
boilers,
have a
everything like that.
facilities and grounds meeting also.
And so we do, I mean, we did, in calculating kind of how much we wanted to take out, we know that a good portion of Bethel's roof is going to, at that point, years ago, we thought it would come in a little over $1 million, but now it'll be much greater.
That's what I'm
So,
saying,
yeah.
we'll relook at kind of collaboratively, bring that all back together.
Okay, so revenue, obviously the warehouse revenue is continuing to grow, although we've seen a slowdown. We haven't seen the, we had a big spurt there for a second. The 3 warehouses that got finished this past year, last budget year, those buildings were almost up. They were, in my opinion, they were done by June 30th. So my guess was that they would be assessed by October 1st. So I had, in the interim budget, I had $1.1 million worth of interims because I thought they would get 3/4 of their annual taxes in this year. Well, they didn't get assessed until for January 1st, so we only get half of their which is about $650,000. So, you know, there was an issue there. So now, we just billed those yesterday at $650,000. So, if they pay in the discount, that's revenue this year, which was budgeted for. If they don't pay it by June 30th, that's revenue that we're going to get next year for interviews. So, but, it's budgeted in this year. If we get it, it's going to be, our regular real estate is over budget. So but regular real estate's over budget, real estate transfer tax over budget, and income tax is over budget. So it's covered for that purpose. But it's just it's a timing thing on when we're going to get that payment. So earned income tax continues to increase. Wages are just, I guess, it's just a sign wages are going up everywhere. It's not just us, it's through the county. Real estate transfer tax, I'll show you, I have some graphs here. You really can't, I can't tell what buildings are going to sell in a year, so I'll go over that. Interest income return after a 14-year hiatus. We haven't had more than $200,000 worth of interest since 2009. Now we'll have over 200,000 in interest for this year and next year. So again, no tax rate change is recommended here after 6 years of just decreases. It's 11 years in a row that we haven't had any increase at all. So here's the earned income tax graph. It's kind of hard to see the numbers, but you know, it has been growing steady over the last 10 years. But then COVID hit, and our budgeted number went way down, but the actual number didn't go down. So we got more in COVID and then the year after COVID it really went up. And it's projected to go up again at the end of this year. So we'll be budgeting, we budgeted $1.75 million for this year. For next year, probably 1.95. So that's a significant increase. And this is just a different way to look at it. I didn't know if you'd be able to see those numbers, that's why I put this in there. So we average 3.6 increase every year on that. Real estate transfer tax revenue, this is something that it's hard to budget. Some years you well, over my career here, it's been pretty stable until the last couple of years. It really went through the roof. So if you have a warehouse sell, twice in a year, that's $350,000 each time it sells. So that's way more than the budget itself. So that's what happened in 2022. So this year we only budgeted $250, and we're already at $460 as of now. So we'll be over budget there too. The state revenue governor's budget shows $392,000 increase in basic ed, 74 in special ed, and 114 in mental health subsidy. We've learned over the years that we really can't trust these proposals because they don't necessarily come true. So in the essence of historical knowledge, budgeting about 260 increase between all of them. Okay, the state property tax allocation just came out last night. Last year was the first time in the history of Act 1 that they actually gave us more money. They went from 645, which was what we received for the last 16 years. They raised it to 811. This year it's 809. So the homestead farmstead I go over in a minute, it's roughly the same as last year. The transportation subsidy is based on last year's costs, so I know how much we're going to get this year, but I won't know how much we're going to get next year until we finish our final reports and do all that stuff. So I have an idea, but I'll just use my best guess on that. We have higher costs this year, so it's going to be higher reimbursement next year. So as our aid ratio decreases, our reimbursement decreases also. So federal ESSER 1 and 2 funds remain, and there are set-asides for them. There's also some security grants, things like that, that we're still figuring out, some of it has to be spent by September 30th of this year. The other, ESSER 3 has to be spent by September 30th of next year. And that's the big one, that's $2.6 million there. 2.1 is the construction for HVAC. And that's spent by September 30th of next year. So we have some challenges there. Access revenue, I was, a couple of years ago, we were gonna just wash our hands of that. It was just too much work. It's too much trouble to get through it. But we do have some funds in there, and Kate does good, and Adrian does a good job with the access fund billing for Medicaid students. So we'll have excess funds there to get more. We get about $100,000 a year. Next year, I think we'll probably get about 150. So revenue by source, local revenues, and it's actually gone up in the last few years, but it used to be like 66, and now it's 68%. State kicks in 28, federal kicks in 4. Expenditure highlights, the health trust, which Andy's on the chair, he's the chair. Approved a rate increase of 8.5%. And that was basically because we had a 0% increase the year before and 1.5 last year, and our actuaries recommended that we keep up with. Now our costs have just come back to bite us, and now we have to increase for it. Charter school costs remain high. I'll go over that. Heating oil, we're going to save money based on last year, based on our cost per gallon. Electricity, we're good until 10 of 24 at 5.5. Transportation rates have significantly increased, and we knew that. We're planning for that. And the increase in bond payments, which we'll go over, is also there. We have some positions that we're going to pitch in the budget that may be funded by the ESSER's funds, so we'll go over that with the Finance Committee and before next meeting. So this is the cyber student enrollment in history. So we're sitting now, right now we have 53, well right now we have 59. This was as of October 1st for all of them, for all these numbers, so just to give you an idea where we were. So we have 53 total students, 43 regular ed, and 10 special ed. What drives, this is driven by our expenses. So they're trying to change that. They're trying to make it uniform for all of the cyber charters, but based on our expenses, you take out all the federal funding, you take out all the brick and mortar stuff, and then so that comes to an amount that we have to pay them, the cyber school. So I thought we turned a corner when last year we reduced by 25 kids from COVID. I thought it was going to continue, but we stayed the same. So we got to hope they change some funding for that. So the debt service with regard to the bond payment, our current annual debt service is $2.45 million per year. And that's net. We pay 2.8, but we also get money back from the state plan on it. So the net is 2.45. This year is our last payment for a 2015 bond, I think. So our debt service goes down by $754,000 after this year. And then after next year, a different bond is paid off, and it goes down by $881,000. So it's a total reduction of $1.6 million over this next 2-year period. Now, do the project, the new bond payment just fills that in. It fills that in, and it's actually basically $2 million per year more than that. So a $65 million bond is basically $2 million a year, depending on the interest rates. Revenue is already available, and the bond rates have stabilized. They're not continuing to go up with the Fed rates. So I think we'll be okay there.
How long will that bond be for?
27 years. This just gives you an idea of, this year our current debt service is 2.45 million, and next year it goes down to 1.7 million. It would go down to 1.7 million, but then we add $2.7 million for the new payment, which takes us to $4.4 million, which is an increase of $2 million. And then every year after that, it basically is $4.4 million for the next 27 years. Well, yeah, the next 26 years. So that's the impact of that. Our millage rate, just to remind you, that we went from the 7th highest millage rate in 2009 to the lowest in Berks County last year. Our millage rate's lower now than it was in 2009. Average rate increased significantly while we lowered. You see there, we're at 25.9 mils. We're the lowest of all, except for Reading. I don't count Reading because they're an anomaly. But that's where we're at. That's for the proposed for, based on what I have. There's some districts in here that are contemplating an increase for next year, but they don't know what the numbers are. So I left it what it was. Ones that put it in there, I did that in there. So we're actually 6 mils lower than the average Berks County, or 19% lower than the average Berks County school. Homestead Farmstead, that number just came out yesterday, or last night. But we have 28 homesteads and 197 farmsteads. That actually is a reduction from last year. The state allocation increased for the first time last year in 16 years. And the exclusion for the homeowners that have approved homesteads or farmstead would be, last year was 264, I estimate it's going to be 267. I have to do some calculations yet, but it's about roughly the same as last year. But it went up from, I think it was 180 or something the year before, so it went up like 60 or 70 bucks from the last time. So again, this is the money that is this comes from is the slots for the tots. This also provides property tax rent rebates for seniors and disabled citizens, so you get a rebate. If you don't know about it, you go to the Department of Revenue website. All right, preliminary budget will be approved on May 16th. No tax increase for the 11th year in a row, decrease 6 years in a row, no change in millage. Some figures we don't have yet, and many figures, for expenditure figures we don't have yet. Tax bills we mailed on 7/1. So we're in a finance committee meeting, and we tried to set that up for later this week, but I'm not sure. Carl, is there any time later this week? It would have to be like Thursday or the following week would be also fine.
I was gonna say for this week, it would have to be like 4:30, 5 o'clock. Next week, we might be able to make it earlier.
Okay. So maybe we'll go like Monday or something, next Monday. So, Chris, you okay with that? What time would be best for you? You can get here at 3, but that's early for you. Do it at 4, 4:30?
Is 4 work?
4 work for me, yeah. Okay, 4 o'clock Monday.
May.
I'll call.
Thank you.
Now, we have the interview set up for assistant principal for next week. Do we want to do that before then? Or is that just a marathon then?
Do what before?
The finance, to do it all Tuesday.
I thought they said Monday.
What time are you? What time is it?
Yeah, so interviews start at
That's
5:45.
40 minutes, correct?
So we could do, if you want to start at 4, we could do finance for 4, 5:45, and then interviews after.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Or if we think we need more time.
Do something I don't have it in my calendar.
Yeah, the 9th.
Okay.
So it's not a regular board meeting, it's just.
Okay, right, everybody?
Yeah, I don't have it written down.
Is Tuesday okay, Chris?
Yeah.
It works for me, though. I don't say.
What time do you want to make it for the 9th?
4
4 p.m.?
4 o'clock on Tuesday?
So let's be fine.
Yeah, so it's Tuesday now, not Monday.
Yeah.
Got it.
I'll send out email and call.
Thank you.
Sounds well for everybody. All right.
All right. Well, you were, whatever all that time, I'll still repeat.
So that's going to be basically setting the
Yeah.
expenditures and yeah. We'll provide those numbers to you with the actual summary next Friday.
Okay.
And the depositories, is by code, we have to name where we could possibly deposit money. We have to have those approved by every May we have that approved. So we have to go out of the district to go to bank anymore. We have to,
use for citizens?
they never responded to a request. We have the cafeteria, so we stay with Truist, we go to Myerstown once a week. We have some check cashing thing.
Truist said they were closing a bunch of branches. Myerstown's not on that list, is it?
No. No, just Runville was.
Okay. So D, appoint Christopher Heck as board treasurer for the term beginning July 1st, 2023, and ending June 30th, 2024, for a stipend of $500.
All right, moving on to personnel. People, can you take care of that? Those
Sure.
absences.
A, we have to approve the following resignations: Patrick Slater, and approve to terminate employment of Logan Levingood. And we have approved someone's employment, Tyler Frederick. We have coaching positions and event staff, and then volunteers. As listed.
We'll do volunteers now.
I don't care if you want to approve it now.
It's typically what we were doing, right?
Okay, I make a motion to approve volunteers for the remainder of the 2020-2023 school year as listed.
Heck, second.
Any comments? Roll call?
Hedrick,
Yes.
Spider,
Yes.
Rissmiller,
Yes.
Heck,
Yes.
Betts,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Bach,
Yes.
Palmer, Fox.
Yes.
All right, we'll move on to curriculum. Ms. Clark?
Approve the 3-year agreement with Renaissance for the implementation of the STAR 360 platforms.
Yes, just to give a little bit of background behind why and what this service is. Our comprehensive plan, one of the primary focuses was continually looking at our MTSS system and essentially look at how we can meet the needs of all learners. So as an instructional admin team, we've really done a whole year deep dive analysis of what are our systems, what are we using in our toolbox to support teachers and to support learning, and ultimately, how are we looking at identifying the learning gaps and skill gaps that exist and supporting those to try to help all students, essentially live the mission that we have, reach their full potential and achieve great things. So in that process, we started to look at all the tools that we have available to us, and they're all kind of interconnected, or not connected at all. They're all independent pieces. We assess students quite a bit using different platforms. We then intervene students with a completely different platform, and the data that we get in the teacher's hands is very cumbersome, which then takes a lot more time. It's difficult to analyze, and then to try to troubleshoot and identify what the specific student need is. But again, it's not efficient. So this year, we started to trial. Renaissance is the organization that has 2 platforms. STAR Assessment, which is a suite of assessment tools that allow us to screen students' skill deficits and skill needs in ELA and in math. But then in addition to that, there's a bunch of different custom assessments that we could use to progress monitor and track student progress as we're intervening as an education staff and trying to help them grow in their area of need. The other piece is called Freckle. Freckle is a personalized, essentially intervention tool that links directly with that assessment. So as a student takes the STAR assessment, it identifies where their levels are at in math and ELA, where their skill deficits are, and strengths, in all honesty. And Freckle is kind of this practice and reinforcement tool that teachers can use in the classroom on a tier 1 level with all students, where if students are working independently, it's going to differentiate math and ELA concepts based on their particular need. So if a student's excelling, if it's a 3rd grade student excelling, and they could be working on 5th grade material, it's exposing them to that 5th grade material. If the student's struggling, and they're on a 1st grade level, we're pulling that group, we're intervening that skill, and then we're reinforcing and tracking it on that program. We have tools that satisfy all of these things, but they don't talk to one another, which takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and it's not an efficient system. STAR offers an ability for all of those platforms to talk to one another, so we're taking 4 or 5 programs, and we're essentially going into one program that does all of those. It's a one-stop shop for our students. They get on their iPad, they go to one icon instead of 5 different icons, and it allows us to get usable data really quick in the hands of the teachers, and they can make data-driven decisions to support learners. We spent all year trialing this with 3rd grade at Bethel, 5th grade at PB, and then 7 through 10 at the junior senior high school, just to get this in teachers' hands, analyze it, see is this a tool that could be used to support teaching and learning, and I think that's the key. This is not replacement of instruction. This doesn't replace a teacher-student interaction. This is simply a toolbox, or a tool in the toolbox that allows the teachers to analyze and get data really quickly so that we can meet the individualized needs of students, and then essentially, help close those learning gaps and help them get to where we know they can be. In addition to that, the interventions that are linked to this already also link to a program called Nearpod that a lot of our teachers use from an instructional standpoint. So this opens up a platform we already invest in and allows us to do more. So this is great on a number of levels. We can address the learning gaps and push our higher level students all under one umbrella. And it also capitalizes and uses tools that we already invest in as a district moving forward. When I looked at funding for it, under Title I and our ESSER funding, we can fund the first 2 years of this contract without going to general budget or coming out of the curriculum budget. So that's a huge support in terms of the first 2 years. For that 3rd year moving forward, we would be replacing subscriptions that we're already investing in to supplement this in. So STAR and Freckle combined come in a little bit higher than programs like IXL that we already invest in, but we would phase what we're paying for out, and we would bring this in under our budget, and we would be paying about $12,000 more a year for this whole platform that works with each other. Feedback we got from the teachers has been very positive, especially elementary, and that's our primary target. Middle school as well has been very positive. High school is a little bit more traditional of this is what we teach, keep up type of deal. They are doing a great job with interventions, but we have to stretch them, I think, a little bit more to change with the advisory period that Mr. Hamrick put in. Interventions at the high school, I think, just need a little bit more massaging. But this is a great tool that they're not used to having, that we're going to coach them up and make sure it's used at that 9th and 10th grade level as well.
So how long has this program been around?
Renaissance and STAR has been around for a long time. I don't know exactly. Former districts that I've partnered with have used this for quite some time. And like I said, we had Freckle at one point in district, and then we kind of went away from that. We didn't have the STAR assessment that partnered with it, so it kind of was like a standalone, nice tool for instruction, but it didn't give us a deep level of data.
So is this going to be requiring more testing for students?
Actually, it's going to take a lot of the testing off. It's going to streamline our processes. So every quarter, essentially, we kind of do some benchmark assessments This will help lighten the load of that because we're sending everyone to one assessment, identifying what needs are, and if there's an identified need, we might do a deep dive to truly see what that is, but all students aren't going to have to go through this litany of numerous assessments.
And did I think I hear you say it's more than ELA and math, or?
So it's ELA and math focused. They have science and social studies, but they don't necessarily align to practical skills and standards. But there's also an EL component to it. So for our language learners that are coming in, we have the ability to adapt and assess what is their knowledge gap without worrying about the language gap. So that'll help us serve our English language learners a little bit better. So instead of trying to interpret how much of their struggle is language versus content, we can kind of tease that out. The other piece with this too is reporting. There's a really nice report that we can share with parents. So after the students take that assessment, there's a parent report that goes home, and it's, hey, here's a snapshot of where your son or daughter is, which is great. It kind of gives grade level equivalent. What are some skills that could be an area of focus, and that allows for more communication back and forth. And if we do that over the course of a couple times a year, and then if we longitudinally do this K to 10, you're getting a pretty good snapshot in addition to the report card of areas of growth, areas in need of strengthening, and areas where you're excelling, which could be, again, for a parent, it's just more information that they can see that we see that doesn't exist right now.
Moving on to items for board action.
Dr. Andrew Netniks, as the Tulpehocken Area School District Trustee of the Berks County School District Health Trust, and how do you say your last name? I can never get it right.
Okay.
Tom Kay. As the alternate trustee for the 2023, 2024, and 24-25 school year.
I'll put Bill's plug in there that you guys can help advocate for health savings sharing plan. All right, moving on to administrative reports, we will go as are listed there, Mr. Hammond.
So we are rocking and rolling with the school year, and we have the Keystones coming up. We have the Algebra Keystones 15th and 16th, with our English following that the 17th and 18th, and concluding with Bio the 22nd and the 23rd. So positivity, we have our Pride Point Student of the Month for high school is Sophia Courtwright. She has worked extremely hard to get to that point. We had a fantastic prom. I've heard a lot of positive comments from the students that it was the best prom they've been to. Shout out to the Mays family for helping us get that location. It looks like it's a possible location we can use moving forward. It was at the Berkshire Country Club. Very beautiful location, so shout out to that family for helping us there. The FFA banquet was recent, the 28th. It was at the Burnville Fire Hall. We actually outgrowed our previous location. We had over 200 people involved in the FFA banquet. It was a fantastic celebration of all our FFA kids and how hard they've been working. And finally, congrats to the Tulpe FFA dairy judging team and Maya Bixler for placing first in the contest, and Maya has an individual, so congrats to those for that competition.
Good evening again. A couple of things. Pride Students of the Month for April. 7th grade was Cole Spencer, and 8th grade was Araceli Shobe. Our Pride Teacher of the Month for April was Mrs. Heather Joy in 7th grade. PSSAs have been underway. 3 days of language arts for 7th and 8th grade started last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Math for 7th and 8th grade started today and will conclude tomorrow. And then for 8th grade only will be all day Thursday, both modules in one day, then concluding our PSSA assessments. Mini-thon back on Friday, April 21st. The junior high hosted an event after school from 3 to 11 p.m. After talking with Mr. Lehman and Mike Mahalan, shout out to them for helping put everything together with the student council. Somehow in the conversation it came up about keeping me to something. Ended up being 4 feet of the pole behind the junior high. they pulled the boxes out and they stuck. So for about 35 minutes, I hung up there being duct taped to the pole, and the students got to help tape me to said pole and then come up and take a picture with me as a little keepsake from the event. Overall, we raised just under $6,000 as a junior high for Minithon, so it was fantastic. And kudos to everybody, students included, for that. Last but not least, big shout out to Miss Dietrich and a handful of the 8th grade students. They submitted essays about social media and how it can affect one's life to the American Legion essay contest. We actually took home 1st place and 2nd place in the state. So shout out to Maya Hine and Troy Ruffner for them placing 1st and 2nd. Thank you.
Just like Mr. Lynch, I was taped to a pole, the same pole, about 15 years ago. Mr. Hedrick, you might have been there. Everybody went inside. I remained on the pole.
That was a caveat of mine, Mr. Lynch. You must not.
Yes. Very fun. Scholastic Achievement Bank is May 24th. Our 2 keynote speakers who we're going to recognize, Bonnie Benfer, need not say anything about her, and then Glenn Riegel, former graduate from Tulpehocken. We'll be honoring them and our top students on the 24th. And an event unlike any other, Tractor Day, near and dear to my heart, May 26th. Breakfast starts off at 6:45. We are going to have the PA milkshake, farm show milkshakes there, as long as FFA milkshakes. Anybody want to take me on the milkshake contest? Bring it. And we'll have several food trucks as well. So that's it. Thank you.
Good evening. So I'd like to start by highlighting some staff, one of them being Mr. Foreman and our new music teacher at Bethel, Ms. Klauser, for not only being new teachers to the district, but taking on projects while being brand new teachers. So during the 4th grade concert, Mr. Foreman has agreed to display student artwork, to have our families walk the halls, kind of be able to highlight all the good stuff the kids are doing in art. Ms. Klauser has also, she invited me last week to come see a recorder lesson, which is new for our 3rd graders. It was loud, but it was really exciting. The kids were super excited to show me what they learned on their recorders, and they get to take them home at the conclusion of this week. And Ms. Klauser also is hosting a talent show for Bethel students grades 4 through 6, as well as staff that would be interested, which is on the calendar of events. I also wanted to thank our wonderful PTO for all the countless hours that they're putting into our beach bash, watching the weather closely, picking which inflatables that we can use either inside or outside, but organizing that, such a great community event. Last year was a huge hit, even though it was inside. It was standing room only. And lastly, I wanted to highlight Miranda Ruffner for being our first girl wrestler to make it to the Mawa tournament this weekend from Tulpehocken. So I thought that was pretty cool.
And Beach Bash is this Friday.
This Friday.
5:85.
Did you say that 3rd graders will be bringing recorders?
Get your plug, earplugs.
Yes.
I appreciate
They
that.
have a nice case.
Do you still have your recorder from 3rd grade? Yeah, do that.
He said that, and I'm thinking, 3 blind mice just
Yeah,
get screwed over.
More hot cross buns.
Whatever it is.
Hi. We are heading into our final few days of PSSAs this week. Students have been really focused and really hard at work, so I'm really, really proud of that. And honestly, helping them run smoothly has been a whole team effort. Myself, our school counselor, our cafeteria, our specialists, our paras, teachers, everyone. So it's been going really well. We have lots of musical concerts coming up this month, the art show, thanks to Mr. Foreman, and I wanted to highlight our talent show. Diana Haldren, our music teacher, has really planned and organized the talent show. I'm super excited about it. And I had the pleasure of sitting in the auditions for the talent show, and we had about 20 acts from 4th through 6th grade come through. We had singing, dancing, dice stacking, electric guitar, pretty cool stuff. And I was blown away by their talents, and I was really excited to get the chance to see students' passions and interests kind of beyond the four walls of the classroom. So it's just going to be really special, and I was happy to be part of it.
Good evening. One of the items Pupil Services are preparing for is our extended school year program this summer. Program's going to run July 10th to the 27th. It's going to be just at the Bethel Elementary. Only we try to utilize the junior, senior high school, but with some of those project items starting this summer, we thought it'd be great to try to keep the kids out of the building as much as possible. We have just over 40 students qualified, and our staff, teachers, paraprofessionals are really stepping up, willing to come in over the summer, which has been great to leave, doesn't leave Caitlin and I scrambling trying to find the staff to come in, so that's been great. I want to take a moment to just talk about one of our teachers, Holly Jo Torres. She's a learning support teacher at Bethel for 5th and 6th grade. During a walkthrough at the beginning of the year, her students were rowdy, to say the least. She reached out, let me know that she wasn't thrilled with how that went. The students weren't thrilled, so she invited me in again at the end of the third quarter to see those students in completely different groups. Students came in, well-mannered, greeted me, they greeted each other. And really, it was neat to see our teachers go above and beyond that academic, really teaching students, manners and making those first impressions. But I thought that was really neat because we talked about a well-rounded student here, so I thought Mrs. Torres did a great job with that.
Hello. Last month, before our last board meeting, we held a community training on addressing challenging behaviors in the home. We did have 6 people sign up, and we had half of them show up. But it seemed to be a really good training. We had some great feedback come back from the members who did show up. One of our upcoming events at Tulpehocken is our very first Tulpe Special Olympics. So we're going to be holding that on May 24th. That'll be during the school day, so that'll be within all 3 of our buildings. We'll get together at our junior, senior high, and we'll just have a little fun activity. Some of our admin are going to participate in a race with the kiddos, so it should be a really good time. One other staff member I would like to recognize is one of our paraprofessionals at our Bethel school. We had some staffing needs in one of our tougher classrooms with some of our challenging behaviors, and she stepped up and was really willing to jump in and just be part of the team, and just did a really great job being part of that. That was Gina Gettle.
What time is the Special Olympics?
10:30 to 1:30. And we have a rain date of May 25th, in case it's bad weather that day.
No.
No.
We just found out real wrong.
Oh, you're right. Well, I have a bad knee, so I might, I don't know. You read everything.
Good evening. So I just wanted to give a quick update that Dennis and I, over Easter break, met with some seniors at Alberta University who are coming into the field soon, just to try and keep that bridge being built and have that pipeline of talent for the future, keeping us staffed. The final steps of the district's literacy plan are now complete, so I'm just working on finishing up reporting, and then I can share that. The math plan is one step away from being in the same place, so that will also be forthcoming. And just as a share point, that I've had a chance across the year to be in almost basically every classroom across the district multiple times in some places, just to kind of pop in and take it in for a couple minutes, interact with the kids a little bit. But on Monday, I had the chance to cover Mrs. Kramer's first grade classroom for their hour of math. And those kids did not miss a beat with her being out of the room and me being in the room. And I've covered a number of classrooms over the last couple of years out of necessity at the K-6 level. And it was an amazing experience. They made an amazing experience. So it speaks to the culture that our building leaders set in all of our buildings, teachers like Mrs. Kramer, and ultimately the kids, that they were right on top of it, didn't miss a beat.
Hi, everybody. The week after our wonderful spring break, I got to go to a food service directors meeting for the district. It was held at Hamburg. We talked a lot about purchasing local foods and getting everybody on board with church dinner distribution. One of the representatives started the meeting off by telling a story about the start of the school year. They had a farmer with all these watermelons and nowhere to sell them. And guess who bought them? Tulpehocken. And the farmer, she said, actually teared up and cried when she went and told them, you know, we're able to sell those. So that was really kind of moving. It kind of puts, you know, a body to the face of, you know, what we're trying to do here. Last week, I brought my daughter in to work with me for Take Your Daughter to Work Day or Take Your Child to Work Day. So I just wanted to thank the district for allowing that. She had an awesome time. She's in 5th grade. We observed breakfast, we observed lunch, we put in food orders, talked about portion costs, how many, you know, chicken nuggets come in a case. I let her, we have those flat screen TVs in the cafeterias, and monthly I update those with the new menu and just seasonal items. I let her update that, she loved that. But all in all, the big takeaway from the day was the electric stapler in my office. So great job having those electric staplers. To backtrack a little, on the 20th we had our holiday meal, and we did the 2nd annual bake-off. So I asked each cafeteria to come up with a dessert to serve to the students and staff for the holiday meal. We brought samples up to the district office and allowed everybody at the district office to vote. Julie Blankenviller was actually here tonight but left. She's here for her daughter's Student of the Month. She created a cupcake with a rainbow and clouds for the Penn Burnville dessert, and that one most creative. The high school did a vanilla with, it was like a banana white cake cupcake with grass and a little Easter egg, and they won best tasting. And Bethel did a brownie with a chocolate Easter egg, and it was just kind of decorated with sprinkles and whatnot, and that won the traditional favorite. I believe that there was an email that went out from Mimi with a SNAPA, which stands for the School Nutrition Association of Pennsylvania Spring Magazine. So we were featured several times in that magazine. I do submissions, they choose, decide what they want to put in. But there was a full-page article about Bethel Elementary, and the smoothie bike that we brought in was part of a National School Breakfast Week celebration. We had samples. Some of the kids got to ride the bike and see how the bike ran the blender to make the smoothies. And of course, it was local yogurt coming from Allegheny Farms. We're also serving that local yogurt up at the high school. We make yogurt parfaits. They've been a big hit. People can actually really notice the difference, really comment on how much they like the products. This Friday is School Lunch Hero Day. I think it might be the 10th or 11th anniversary of this holiday, meant to celebrate the staff in the cafeteria. It was started by an author who has a series of graphic novels about a lunch lady superhero who's fighting villains, and you know, the substitute turns out to be an alien, and she fights him off. And we are going to celebrate. I'm going to bring in a gift for all the staff, and we're doing a lucky lunch ticket where one student each grade gets a magic ticket with their lunch tray, and then we're going to give them one of the Lunch Lady superhero books. That's good.
Congrats on getting in that article.
Can you hear everybody again? I just wanted to shout out a few of the staff members. Dennis, Judy has fully taken over grounds and is doing a great job getting all the fields ready. He had no idea how to do a baseball field. I went over it with him a couple of days, and he's been doing them ever since. I've been helping him this week with all the rain, but he's been doing a fantastic job keeping up the mowing, weed whacking, and everything else. We are doing interviews currently for grounds positions, so hopefully this week we'll have a candidate to present with you next month, or next meeting. Sean, thank you for coming tonight. But Sean, Zach, and Jen have been killing it in the technology department. To the fact where I can spend most of my time helping Dennis and the other guys with things coming up this spring. So I wanted to thank them for taking and running with that department. I did want to thank Paul. Paul does a wonderful job behind the scenes. Nobody ever knows where Paul is because he's just that good at being everywhere. We had a typical Pennsylvania spring where it was 88 degrees one day and 40 the next, so he's been doing a great job of trying to stay up with classrooms, making sure they're cooled or heated depending on the day, so doing a great job there. The light project at the district office, we're about halfway done. We have a couple conference rooms, and this room is As the principal said, concert's coming up, so May 17th is the 5th and 6th grade at the junior senior high school, along with the art show. Was that you worked with Mr. Schrack on that slideshow?
No, for the environmental tackle one?
Yeah, okay, so they're going to be displaying artwork while Matt is doing a song with his band. He's trying to do music with art, so I haven't seen the slideshow or how it's going to go together yet, but we're going to make that work to be a neat, I'm sure it'll be a neat thing. He's going to use the projector on stage to show student artwork while he's doing the, I've got explicit notes of what I'm supposed to show when, so Matt is on top of that stuff. And then the last thing junior senior high school concerts are May 21st and 2nd, they'll also be streamed as well. And then the last thing I have is Adrian Vega, former graduate from here. He's going to Kutztown University for computer science. He actually reached out about doing an internship with us. So I'm going to be working with KU to get that set up at the paper. So I'll have that hopefully for next meeting as well. Pretty fast to approve. But it's nice to hear from him. He seems to be doing real well. He was a great kid in school. He helped us out a couple times. Did a lot in the music department, so he helped us out there and stuff. So it's great to hear from him and see he's doing well. Thank you.
So also I have to comment on, is it Mr. Sean Young? Is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah, his presentation was so well done. I'm sorry, but sometimes you think of IT people like they're great here, but when they're here, it's like a little bit sometimes. But he acted like a pro and like, you know, he's done, but it was concise. I'm sure you all worked on it together, but
He practiced a lot too, but yeah, he did a great job.
yeah, his presentation was really good.
All right, does anybody have any old business to discuss? How about any new business? So I have two things on new business. I attended a meeting here at Tulpehocken Township for the joint, the joint master plan kickoff meeting, which they're looking at redoing the Lions Club here in Rarensburg with some fields and whatnot, and you just keep your smirk to yourself since you failed on this thing. But I wanted to share there, they had asked for some district input of what our needs were on the Bethel end of the district, and they said, you know, really there is no fields on the Bethel end of the district that are public at this point in time. It's all school fields. So they were intrigued to take that in, and the architect took a lot of notes on that. I was also invited to attend the Excellence in Local Government Municipal Partnership meeting with Fred Levering and Paul Jansen. Last week, Bill is going to attend some of them too. Moving forward, and anybody is welcome, anybody that wants any information is welcome to attend. But what they're trying to do, the way it sounded, they tried to start this pre-COVID, where they were trying to take a holistic approach of the county, bringing in the townships, school districts, boroughs, everybody to kind of look at needs and where monies are being spent, how monies are being spent, is there anything we're duplicating services-wise, and kind of just tying everything together. I thought it was going to be a complete bust, but actually I kind of really enjoyed it, and I think the initiative that they're trying to do will be really good. They do have a meeting coming up here in June, actually at Kaufman's Barbecue, which is all the northwestern townships and boroughs here, basically our school district, which is at Kaufman's on June 7th. So I wanted to share that, and then the last thing I wanted to say kudos to Sean as well, and also all of the team. Your positive shout-outs, they just resonate, that you guys do. And you know, Mr. Hamrick, you noted family, and it just, I don't know, I'm really proud of what we have together. And I think I'm just echoing what everybody else feels here, sitting up here, but it feels really good. Mr. Palmer.
Yes, I would like to, different sitting on this. I would like to add that we were at Kyle and I don't know if and some of the administrators were at the FFA banquet the other night. And they had 205 people there, which in all my years of being involved, I don't ever remember a banquet having 205 people for the FFA. And the energy that was coming out of that room for that program was pretty incredible. And what they're doing with that program and how that forward, the ag program and down through the elementary and that. And the other thing I'd like to, them two teachers, I know I've talked to the one a couple times, like the same week, and every night after school, they were going somewhere with FFA kids. They were either going to a contest or a practice or going to scout out I mean, they were, and it was, 3 or 4 hours after school was out that they were still doing their job. So I think it's just the dedication. And I know we have a lot of teachers and a lot of staff that do that, and it's really appreciated from our end, from the board end, for all the teachers and staff that do that kind of dedication. I know it's not just the ag, it's a lot of you in here, so we really appreciate that.
Calendar events is listed there. Busy time of year. I put everything in my phone of all the events, and I looked at my wife and I said, see you in June. So yeah. Is there anyone wishing to address the board this evening?
Jen Kester, I just kind of want to piggyback off of what Mr. Gear said. On Friday, we do have our beach bash. It is open to the public. Anybody and everyone is invited. We have a lot of carnival games. We have bounce houses coming. Some groups within the school are coming. Some outside people are coming. If you come, you will see some familiar faces. And Mr. Lynch is going to be there. I thought it was a good way to introduce the 6th graders to him so they get to pie him in the face.
What time does that take?
He's there from 5 to 6, and also from 5 to 8, Mr. Chris Kirschner is going to be there, and you can pie him in the face. So again, we just want to let everybody know that it's open to the public, and we're hoping it's going to be 64 and sunny right now. So hopefully it'll be outside, and hopefully everybody can come out. We did hand out some free tickets. So we were letting the teachers know to look on the back of those tickets and the parents. We put winner on the back of them, so one student from each class is gonna, randomly got picked, and they're gonna get a free cone of ice. So hopefully everybody comes out and has a good time.
I heard rumor the FFA milk truck stand
Yes.
is there as well.
FFA is going to be there. The Dairy Princess is going to be there with root beer floats and cream soda floats. We have a funnel cake stand. J&S Pizza is going to be there. Kona Ice is going to be there. Big Dog's food truck is going to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. So.
Anyone else?
Anthony Roder, just a question for Matt. On the web filtering, and I guess for the administration too, if you can consider not only just an email address to yourself when we go to the rest of the IT team, but maybe a distribution list, and they consider an SOP, so if we're going out to counseling, so if someone were to hit a keyword like suicide or something like that, develop that into a distribution list that counseling would get notified, or SMS text or something like that. So maybe develop, since you already have the tool there, it looks like the mechanics are there, work on an SOP to not only have to go to the IT people, but go out to something like that.
Right. So part of the reason we don't is to not flood their mailboxes, because I will say it gets very mundane sometimes when you have 15 of them to look through and they're all just crap. But and we feel like our counselors and our principals probably get enough emails during the day that we're trying to filter that for them, so that they're only seeing the important ones and not missing on that at that point. So,
Yeah, I can appreciate the most problem. So there's a technique to it.
yeah.
Okay, that's why. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. We will be having an executive session for personnel.
Next second.
All in favor, please say aye.